Good evening, everyone. My name is Takiwa Smith. I'm founder and executive director of Science, Engineering, and Mathematics Link Incorporated, and I want to welcome you to our Teen Science Cafe. The Teen Science Cafe is a program of our Math and Science Career Academy whose goal is to expose you to STEM and STEM careers. The reason that we host the Teen Science Cafe and is targeted specifically to teens is that your teenage years is when you make decisions about what you're going to do after you graduate from high school and your career decisions and what paths you want to go. So if you're in middle school, you make decisions about what high school you may want to go to, if you want to go to a magnet school, what out of school time STEM programs you want to participate in. And high school is when you got to learn and decide what you want to major in college and what college you want to go to. And all of those important decisions that you make, it is great to have exposure to different STEM careers and also to possibly meet and interact with somebody that is doing things that you think you may be interested in that can teach you about that field and guide you in making your career path towards pursuing that. So without further ado, I am going to introduce our program coordinator, Carlin Pounders, who is going to introduce this evening's speaker.
Thank you, Tequila. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. So tonight's speaker is Briana Brown. Briana is a former educator who served as a neuroscience and biotechnology teacher in Houston, Texas. And she has experience in health disparities research and community-based advocacy. She received her BS in biological sciences in science math education from Florida State University and a master's in education in master's in education in educational psychology with a focus in research and creativity from Texas A&M University. Now, currently, Briana is the Programs and Operations Coordinator for the National Science Policy Network, a nonprofit and talent network for early career scientists interested in policy. In her role, Briana supports a leadership team of 20 fellows and 4 part-time directors and 3 program staff by overseeing daily management and operations of the organization's committees, events, and programs. So you guys are really in for a treat today as she is an expert in her topic that we'll be talking about today as far as non-traditional pathways in STEM. So without further ado, I will give it over to Briana.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And I hope you get as much out of this as I had fun planning it. So today we're going to talk about non-traditional pathways to your dream STEM career. And so by non-traditional, I think growing up, I had an idea, go to college, boom, you're into a career, but there's a lot of steps in between that that you can take to get to where you want to go. So just as mentioned before, a brief overview. I got my bachelor's from Florida State and my master's from Texas A&M. I am the current Programs and Operations Coordinator for NSBN, and it's a nonprofit. So this is a nonprofit leadership role for a STEM organization. And we support STEM students, graduate students primarily, who have an interest in policy and advocacy. And so I wanted to put this quote on here that it's not how you start, but it's how you finish, because I think that's the reoccurring theme that we're going to get throughout my presentation is, it's not necessarily as important to what you do or how you do it. Just as long as you complete your goals and achieve what you want to, you'll get where you need to go. Okay, so the journey. So growing up, I think I quickly found out that my favorite subjects were math and science. I was naturally a better performer in those areas. Not so much history, not so much ELA, but science and math, that was my jazz. And so I also had hobbies. I like sports, problem solving, reading, anything that could get me to do some hands-on activities was really exciting for me. And so naturally, I think when I was younger, a lot of people said, you like science and math. you need to go be a doctor. Or if you liked ELA and history, you were going to be a lawyer. And there weren't really many careers in between that. And some other influences, family. My mom was a teacher. My dad was a teacher. My godparents were teachers. A lot of people in my family were teachers. So naturally, a lot of people figured I would go into education. And then I had my teachers influencing me, saying, hey, you're good at this. You should do that. I had society, you should do this, you should do that. And there was a lot of different pressures that kind of made me go to and get to the journey I was on, and kind of stay on the journey sometimes longer than I needed to, because, I was conscious of trying to make people happy. I was instilled to, once you start something, you don't stop. So that, once I did start something that I didn't necessarily like, I still had to do it, even though I didn't like it. There weren't a lot of opportunities to pivot. So yeah, that kind of influenced my journey. And then exposure in my environment. So I grew up in DeKalb County, Georgia. Was predominantly Black, and, middle class, working class. And, I wasn't exposed to, I didn't have any doctors in my community that I could go shadow. I didn't have any scientists. There was no representation of the careers that I saw myself in, even though I had an idea if that's where I wanted to go, other than a teacher and the things that were in my immediate reach. So that kind of influenced my journey as well. In some ways limited it, but, my personal perseverance helped me. And I think that by having a vision and goal setting, I was on a specific path that helped elevate me to get where I needed to go. But without guidance, I made a lot of twists and turns and going forward and backwards. And so my mindset was to figure it out as you go and just make sure that everything counts. And so, I took a lot of opportunities. I was in every club program you could think of in high school, college as well. And, it didn't really make sense at the time, but at the end, when I was writing my resume or telling my story and my journey, I could take out a skill or something that I learned that was really useful, that I can use still today. So keeping that in mind. Yeah, so in high school, so like I said, I was into sports and I love science. So I naturally ended up doing sports medicine and taking that approach. And I was the football team manager. I took some sports medicine classes, HOSA, Health Occupation Students of America, things like that. So that led me to, again, I wasn't able to have those conversations about, what do you major in college? It was just, you like science, get a degree in biology. Nobody told me what I would do in biology after that. It was just, go to med school, things like that. It was very linear. But I did it. I got a degree in biology. I could tell you the breakdown of a plant structure. I can tell you a lot of things that I probably will never use again. But, I followed that path because that was kind of what was told to me and just assumed for people who like science and math to do. I joined a sorority, and that was good. I learned a lot of leadership skills, got to network with a lot of people. I got to do a program called Delta Gems, where I got to go work with General Electric and do some STEM work with them. It also got me to campus leadership. I got to meet a lot with my professors and network with them, which was really good. They didn't give me a lot of direct advice, but they kind of tried to guide me where they thought that they could. Again, I joined all the STEM organizations, all the clubs, everything I thought would look good on my resume. I wasn't really focused on my happiness. I was just kind of in a very get it done, do what I need to do to be successful in what I thought success looked like. So after undergrad, I started teaching because I had a dual degree and it made sense. And I couldn't really find a job with just a biology major. Again, no one told me. We didn't really talk about career paths. We just talked about degrees. And every time I got to another level, it kind of was like, here's the ceiling to that. So I landed a job here in Houston as a health science teacher, and that was great. I taught neuroscience and biotechnology, which was really, really aligned with my interests. And I really had a passion for giving back to the kids and teaching others. I think you really can tell if you understand something, if you're able to teach it. And so that was awesome. I think I have some typos in here I need to go fix. And I also did programs outside of the classroom, which I thought was good for me to try to ensure that my personal needs were being met. And I was still trying a lot of different things and not just kind of getting myself into a box. I've always been let's be a jack of all trades type person. So I did an applied math program with Rice University. I worked with the Smithsonian in their STEM department, STEM outreach department. And then I also got my master's, and I chose research. It's research, measurement, and statistics, and then cognition and creativity, which is just, I think they were throwing a lot of stuff together, but it encompassed a lot of things that I thought was great. Creativity is like the new buzzword that people want, a skill for you to have in jobs. And then research, measurement, and statistics that kind of incorporated my science and math component that I really liked. So a lot of me is always finding things that I can custom make into what I like, but what will help me get to the next step of my journey. And so now I do STEM programming, and I naturally fell into this job. I loved the mission of the NSBN, and I thought that if I would have had something like this when I was in graduate school or even undergrad, I could have not made as many stops on my journey, and I could have been more intentional with my decision-making in my career path. And so in addition to doing that job, I volunteer for programs like this. And then I'm also a Science for Social Equity Fellow. And that program works with community organizers and scientists to go make change in your community. So it's been really fun to do something that I love for work, but then also find things that kind of balance out. And I do for fun with no intention other than to making the world a better place. And so I thought this was going to be a little more interactive. So I don't know if you can put in the chat, but if you can, if you've ever said any of these things to yourself, I want to change the world, or I love science, I love math, or I like to learn, I like to try new things, and I want to be successful, feel free to write and just say yes or +1, I don't know, anything that you can show that you're engaging. But these were a lot of things that resonated with me that I felt like, I grew up saying all the time, but no one told me what that looked like in practice, what that looked like, as a job. It was just, I want to change the world. That was what I literally wrote on my college acceptance essay, and everything, that was describe yourself. I just want to change the world, be the change you want to see. Very cliche, stereotypical answer. But no one taught me how to put that into a career path. And so, when we did define what it looked like to be a STEM professional, it was a doctor or a nurse or a scientist or an engineer. And even scientists and engineer really wasn't clear what they did. It was, engineer is just, it was a category. No one could tell me what an engineer did, on their day-to-day job, or even a scientist. You think of them in a lab all day, but scientists can do a lot more and contribute a lot more to society. There wasn't a lot of information about nonprofits. But, everyone is big on entrepreneurship and starting your own business, or going to be a teacher, or even be a professor. So these were like the top 5-6 careers that I thought you could have. And that was pretty much everything you could do with your STEM degree. However, there is a lot more of careers out there, starting with program coordinator, product program manager. I recently saw a job on TikTok, and TikTok wasn't out when I was a kid, but to be a scientist and go work for TikTok, which I thought was super amazing, and just diversifying the field entirely. Right now I do science policy, so health policy, or any science related policy jobs are possible. You can go work for the CDC. STEM outreach and engagement. So if you like to work with the community, if you like to work with other students, or you want to give back, there's an opportunity to learn what you have, or use what you've learned in your STEM field to do that and teach others why science is so great. And then even science communications, that's kind of merging your ELA writing skills in science. And you can either do it in the form of a blog, or you can do it in the way of translating scientific jargon into a way that other people can understand it in normal terms. So it's way more out there than just being a doctor or a nurse or a scientist or a teacher. And we're going to figure out, what works for you the best, hopefully today. And so just a little bit more on my job specifically and what I do with programs and operations. So these two positions are kind of merged together, but they could very much so be independent. You could be a program director, coordinator, operations director, coordinator. But for me, what I really valued about this job is it merged my scientific interest with my transferable skills. So operations is very much so like, if you're an organized person, you like structure, you like to take good notes, you probably would do decent in operations. If you like programs, running programs, program evaluation, brainstorming ideas and initiatives, then you'll probably be best fit on the program side. But if you have both, there's jobs out there that combine both. And so this first blurb is what I took directly from my job description. And it says, provide effective and inspiring leadership by being involved in all programs and initiatives, developing a broad and deep knowledge of their purpose, role, and contributions to the organization. And so that includes some brainstorming, again, an evaluation, co-creating, and support, which, again, I'm not actually doing STEM in the sense of I'm not a biologist, but I'm able to use my expertise from that field and my experiences in that field to contribute to these programs and putting ideas into programs. And then, so why is this unique and where is the STEM? There's a lot of STEM initiatives. I work with people from STEM backgrounds. And then advocacy work, I think, back to that piece of wanting to change the world and be an influence, that advocacy piece and being able to articulate why an issue is important and what you can do to make an actionable change is really important to me. And not only can you do policy for a specific science issue, but science can work for policy as well. So just kind of merging, again, my interest with my skill set is why this job is unique and why I think these types of positions are unique and can have just as much impact as a doctor or nurse or other traditional STEM professional careers. And so, like I said, this job offers me the flexibility to do extracurricular opportunities. So I'm a fellow for the Science and Social Equity program. I get to network and I get mentorship and I get to mentor other people and just meet people from all kinds of backgrounds, all walks of life, who have the same passion and interest as me. And that's phenomenal. It's a lot of life is who you know, and I get to meet people all the time. I'm always on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. It's much better than Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, all of that to me. So networking is a fun part of my job. And then we get to partner with STEM societies and organizations. So NSBE is one, SACNAS, AAAS, other scientific societies, and work with them. So it's good to have like-minded people, hardworking people working on similar initiatives as you. Any questions so far? All right. So what I wanted to do today was work on this specific set of learning objectives and outcomes. I could teach you, about science education. I could teach you about writing science communications, which our members do in my organization. But I think what's most important for young people who still have the opportunity to pick and pivot, their career choices is to clarify your values and your interests and what your strengths and your skills are. And then be able to articulate and communicate those transferable skills and work-related skills. Science will always be there, and any other content area you're interested will always be there. But I think those transferable skills what is going to make you get to where you need to go. And the skills that are transferable are ones that you can use in the classroom as a teacher and now as a program and operations coordinator. So we're going to focus on that, do an activity about that. And then after that, you all will be able to take what you learned from that workshop and try to identify and research more career fields that are STEM related or whatever you feel like your interests are after doing this activity, and then draft a plan. And plans change, so I don't want you to commit to these plans and feel like, dang, I wrote a 1-year plan and I'm not doing this no more. I don't want to do this anymore. This is not what I envisioned. That's okay. A lot of my takeaways is trial and error and never giving up, but just continuing to fight forward. So I think that's what's going to be most important for everyone to be successful and achieve their goals. And let's go ahead and get started. So this activity is called the flower. That one piece of paper. And so why I thought this was important was because when I was in grad school getting my master's, I did a summer research program at MD Anderson doing health disparities research. And that was a training program. It was very content specific, but they also taught us a lot of skills as well. And so I don't know if I can move this timer, but what we did was took a break. Everyone was highly skilled. Everyone had a background in science. Everyone wanted to be doctors and engineers and things like that. And we paused for a second and identified what were our top 7 skills and what was really important to us. And people in the program ranged from 18 to 35 years old. And so some of us were a lot earlier in our careers, some of us were farther in their careers. But it's always important to pause and reflect and make sure, are you happy? Is this situation working? I left the classroom. I was a great teacher. I got teacher of the year. I love my students, but, I wasn't truly happy. I didn't feel like I was making the difference that I wanted to make. And by doing this activity, it really helped me see, what was important to me. And what was important to me at 21, might not be important to me at 30, but it's always good to kind of check in with yourself and reprioritize and adjust as necessary. So this book is called What Color is Your Parachute? And it's a job-seeking book and has a bunch of tips on how to network, how to identify your strengths, so your weaknesses, how to negotiate your salary, all kinds of stuff. And they gave this to us for free at my summer program. And the What Color is Your Parachute is just kind of like what is, like, who are you? What's important to you? Why do you do what you do? And so the flower activity kind of breaks that down, and it's like a chapter for each petal, but we're just going to try to identify a few things to kind of help us narrow in, our career path and what we want to do. And so, yeah, we're going to each go on to do our worksheet. And this is the flower because it has 7 petals, including the center one. And so you'll be able to assess your values, goals, purpose, your special knowledge, which will be like your content area, what you're most interested in, your transferable skills, which is something that can go in and out to all of these different petals, people environments, which is, what type of people do you like to be around? What motivates you? What type of people motivate you to work harder? Your working conditions, do you like being remote? Do you like being in a building? Do you like, I don't know, having a bunch of desks? You want to be in your own cubicle? What type of working conditions help you thrive? Responsibility and salary is on there too. We probably won't get too deep into that because that kind of ranges per career path. But, you can set big picture goals. If you want to be a millionaire, there's probably some careers you want to not get into because some of them are a labor of love and it's service jobs that you probably won't ever make $1 million in. But responsibility is important because do you want to be the leader? Do you want to be a team player, a collaborator? Those types of things are really good to understand. Geographically, where do you want to live? I don't want to live anywhere cold. I have lived in cold places, and as an adult, I don't go back. So, that's important to you. And some jobs are more prevalent in certain areas than others. And yeah, and so we're going to take about 10 to 15 minutes to kind of go through that list and assess where we are. And then we'll come back to talk in the chat about what we discovered about ourselves, some next steps, and then final takeaways. So if you have a phone, you can scan this QR code. And if you don't have, or if it's better for you to work on a desktop, you can go to tinyurl.com/STEMFLO, like flower, 2155. And then it'll give you a view only version, and you can make a copy and download it. And then you can just save it, under whatever will be easiest for you to remember for the worksheet. So I'm going to give everyone a minute to do that, and I'll pull it up on my screen really quickly so we can go through that together. All right, so I'll pull this up so everyone can see. And what this is just breaking down each of those petals so that you can take some time to self-assess and see, what's important to you and kind of fill that chart out. So you'll go through each category, read the brief description, and kind of highlight or add bullet points as you wish. And then in about 10, 15 minutes, we'll come back together and talk about, what were your goals and interests, what field or special knowledge do you feel like is most relevant to you? Are there any transferable skills that were on this list or that you could add for yourself that you think is super impactful? What type of environment you like to work in, and geography. And so you don't have to go to this last page. We'll talk about that after this activity. Yeah, that's it for this. We'll do that little work. Alrighty, so I'm gonna set my timer. I hope this works. And give you all, let's say 13 minutes, and then I'll come and see where we are when we have about 2 minutes left.
Okay, so while we are doing the activity, I thought, let me go ahead and ask some questions that came to my mind from what we've heard already. The first being, when we talk about STEM careers, there are some people who are drawn to the idea of being in a lab. But, of course, as we've been highlighting with the different type of STEM careers that are possible, you don't really have to work in a lab. Mm-hmm. So I was curious if that was something that came across your mind when you were deciding on what to do for your career. Because I know you said that you were into math and science when you were younger. So did you not have an interest in working in the lab, which has its own ideas of what that is like? Yeah. And is that why you chose the path that you did?
Yeah, so I don't think actually any of my science teachers talked about being in the lab as a career. Like we talked about doing science experiments and being in the lab, it's short term, but not long term and what that can produce. And I think being in the lab is great. It's not my style per se. But I don't say I didn't like getting dirty, but when I did my summer grad research program, people had to deal with rats. And for me, dealing with live creatures was a non-negotiable. So that was something that turned me off about the lab. And I'm also, I like to interact with people to some extent. I do like being remote now, but I felt like the lab was very, you go to work in your lab, you stay focused on this one experiment 100 times, and then you go home. And I felt like that wasn't enough interaction, and I couldn't see the direct impact enough for that career. So I think naturally just the work style of being in the lab didn't really appeal to me, but we do need those people out there. So if you're interested in that, and that's your thing, definitely do it. But the environment wasn't good for me.
No, I think that's great because, again, if someone is interested in STEM and they feel like they can't do it because of, a certain aspect like that, then this is encouraging that they still can.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's ways around everything.
Yes. Something else that I wanted to ask about is kind of touching on what you just said as far as, this idea that when you're working in the lab, you're not really getting that much interaction with other people or communicating with other people. But as you've highlighted so far, there are more opportunities in STEM now where communication is important and, writing and STEM literacy is important. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. and I think this came when I was a teacher too, because my school worked with Baylor College of Medicine. And so we worked a lot with their scientists, and we had like Saturdays with scientists and things like that. And so I got to see like people who were really, really smart, really high level, but unable to connect with kids or people who are not also scientists. And so that for us in the classroom translated to there being a gap and a need for someone to kind of be the bridge to make science accessible to all audiences. And even now as a program coordinator, I work with PhDs and people who have been in labs, all their lives. And a lot of what we do is working on a high school. We try to communicate to people who have a high school education because, that's about as simple as you can put it, and make sure that people who haven't necessarily gone to college or haven't had the experiences that you had can still not only get the information, but understand it. As a teacher, a lot of what I did for my students was making the information relevant to them. We talk about polymers and kids are like, what is a polymer? Like, why do I care about this? And then I'm like, oh, it's in your jacket. Or, being hydrophilic is something that's, your windshield wipers. That's why they can wipe the water off. And it's like, oh my God, all these big words and big concepts that seem out of reach are like in our everyday lives. And I think, again, I was able to see that as a teacher, and then in just some of the programs that I've worked, and I've been an advocate for myself because I wasn't always a super scientist either. Hey, can you explain that one more time? And it's okay to ask those questions. Just say, hey, I don't understand I need you to communicate this better to me. And just through those conversations and being transparent and having those different situations where you can advocate for those who are not in the situation you're in or in the position you're in or had the educational experiences you had. You kind of just highlight those inequities and try to make them better.
Yes, that makes me think about how actually there can be two sides, particularly when you are a person of a Black or brown student pursuing STEM, or a woman or a young woman or young woman of color pursuing STEM, where it's like this double-edged sword where I imagine some can feel a little intimidated being in certain spaces where maybe they're just now learning and catching on to things relevant to STEM, but also if they are that person who is, as you just said, saying big words and talking about big concepts, they can somehow intimidate others.
Yeah.
Which, of course, is not the intention, but can you speak to, both of those, I guess? How have you seen that in your educational experience with the youth that you've touched?
Yeah, for sure. So even just me personally, I think I remember being a freshman in college and, just even the how high school doesn't always prepare you for college was a big, big thing. Again, I came from what you would call it Title I school, predominantly Black, I don't want to say it was hood or anything, but, in a minority serving area and I went to a PWI and it was night and day. Just from culture to how prepared those students were. And I think it was a math class. I took like calculus or something and I got like a 50. And mind you, I had like a 4.2 GPA in high school. I thought I was the bee's knees. And, I was ready to drop out of college just because I failed that one test and I wasn't prepared. All these other kids are doing so well. And it happened, across my freshman year, biology, all those things, because we were just coming in on two different levels. I did the best that I could, but the best at this Black high school was like, the middle of a different type of environment. So, that affected me. And, did I still see myself in STEM? Did I still see myself in college, let alone in a career to get past that? So, I had family and a good support system. I was determined. I came too far to turn back at that point. So I think, that helped me a lot too. Sorry, I'm going to pause this real quick. But, so yeah, that was that for me. And I think just taking those experiences with me to the classroom. I taught at a Black school with Black students. I wanted to be that role model for them to see that they could get through it and be successful. And some of my students were intimidated. Some of my peers were intimidated too, because confidence is everything. Even if I don't know something, I'm going to walk in a room and act like I do. And what helped humble me and just keep me grounded was having people in my corner and say, let's tone it down. Or can you, remember who you're talking to, be aware of your audiences. And my students are 100% transparent. They're going to tell you like it is. And they would easily tell me, Ms. Brown, I don't understand that. You're talking too fast. You're talking too much. Just help me bring it down a notch. And so those moments were really good. And the higher I got or the different positions I got into helped me, just be conscious of that. I think growing in general is about being self-aware and understanding where you are and your positionality. I took a class like that in my master's program. And it's like how you and your experiences influence, the decisions you make and the way that you talk, walk, speak. And just being really, really aware of that and taking it to all of my experiences has helped me on both ends of the spectrum.
I feel like what you shared about that experience as a freshman, I wouldn't be like, I'm pretty sure that's probably a common experience.
Yeah, it was traumatizing. And the part with not having my mom went to college, but I mean, she went into a traditional customer service job. My dad, everyone kind of went into these traditional roles. They didn't really go outside of the norm. So no one could coach me on how to get through those. It was like, oh, I love you, baby. It's going to be okay. But there was no strategy. So it was a lot to deal with. But I think as long as you're strong enough to keep going, and I didn't graduate undergrad with a 4.0, but I made it. I had a 3 point something. And, I defined success in my own way. And I think once you figure that out and that helps you get through the process too.
Good stuff.
Cool. Well, let's get back to the activity. If people are done. Let's see. How do I exit out of this? Oh, real quick question I did have. So the comments is the public, and then the private is just us internally?
Yes.
Okay. So people get ready to hop in the comments so we can share out what you learned. All right, so I hope you had some fun doing that activity. I really liked it. Again, I didn't have the opportunity to do that in high school. I didn't do it until I was in graduate school, which was, mid-20s. And I think a part of doing things like this is really helpful because I think we all have an idea of what we want to do, how we want to do it. And then, it's like, what's next? I don't know how to get there. I don't know, what career actually does these things. A lot of what I do now in preparing to transition to another position in my organization has been writing a job description about what I do and making sure that that job description and that title clearly articulates, my contributions to the organization. And we've been really intentional with writing that and making sure that it reflects, accurate work. So I think, kind of assessing these things will help you a lot in planning, what your next steps are. So yeah, if you have anything in the chat, please feel free to share. I'll go through the worksheet and share what I put or what I would have highlighted. And I'd love to see what you all have to say too. And don't be shy. It's just us. Let's see. All right, so goals and interests. So in this section, let me see if I can make it a little bigger for the screen. Hopefully that's big enough for you all to see on the YouTube channel. So yeah, so in this section, we're trying to figure out what's your purpose, what's your calling, what's your mission. Again, mine when I was in high school was I just want to change the world, make it a better place. I still want to do that today too, but I have a little bit better idea of how I can do that and achieve that goal. So I think it's really good to have like a moral compass. You don't have to, but I think it's good to have that and some values that guide you. And that'll also help you understand when you're in a situation, in a job or on a career path and you need to pivot and change, because once, you start getting, and it's okay to want money and be successful in that way too. But by having some principles and some non-negotiables and some guidelines, it'll help make sure that you're on the right path. So some ideas were working with the human mind. That could be teaching, bringing knowledge to people. That could be advocacy, bringing truth and clarity to the world. The human body, shelter, clothing, fitness, health. That's probably more of your doctors. Working with the senses, art. STEM has expanded to STEAM and inclusive of that. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a science to art as well. So if that's what you like to do, find you a pathway that can incorporate both of those. Justice, morality, righteousness. Those could be more law careers, but again, I work in science policy where we can do a little bit of both. We had a symposium last year on the science policy and racial justice and making sure that justice, equity, and inclusion was something that's embedded in science and all parts of it. The human spirit, laughing, compassion. You might be a public service person, and then working with the earth, sustainability, protection of the planet. I see Nana Bird said working the earth. So all of these are valuable. All of these are necessary. They all work together. Special knowledge. So what's your field of interest? So I found out early on I had a really strong passion for neuroscience. When I was working in sports medicine, I wanted to be a neurologist. CTE and things like that really, really interested in me. They still do, which is why my master's program worked out well. I took a clinical neuropsychology class, which had nothing to do with my major, but it was fun and it aligned with my interest. And so once you find out what your niche, if you like physics, if you like aerospace stuff, definitely just take a deep dive in there and see what skills and what content you can, build on to learn more about that. And then my favorite, which I think is the biggest one and why it was the biggest pedal, is your transferable skills. So like I said, my job now is 90% skills based. That could be really, really high, but mostly skills based and not content based. And I think that's important because, you know, no matter what job you do, you're going to have skill sets. You always want to have good communication skills. You'll always want to be organized. You'll always want to have good time management skills, good collaboration, people skills. And those are things that you can take with you anywhere in your personal life as well. Like those transferable skills are amazing. So, and happiness is super awesome. You know, I got out of a career where, like I said, I wasn't happy. I was doing the work, I was doing it well, but I was drained, I was stressed, I was having that moral conflict. And so, you know, it'll be a sweet spot when you can do what you want. And it also makes you happy and feel productive. It makes you feel like you're contributing to the greater good of society. Shout out to you, Nana Bird. I see you, environmental engineering. We can get you some resources on how to get you plugged into that. But yeah, so I hope you found some transferable skills. These were some that I personally put on my list that I thought were important to me, but there's plenty out there. You can Google transferable skills and they'll give you a long list that you can add to your resume one day. People environment, what type of people do you like to work with? So some people like to work with ambitious people and competitive people. Some people find that intimidating and want to work kind of more in a mellow environment where everyone's on the same level. Some people like diversity, some people don't, and diverse can be more than just race. It can be different ages. You know, I've worked with people who were 50 years older than me, and they were awesome. But some people want to work with, you know, equal-minded, young-minded, pure-like people. So if anyone can add in the chat, you know, what were some characteristics of this isn't a thing. What type of people you like working around. And then working conditions. So before I was a teacher, so we know that was 100% in the classroom, lots of standing up. It wasn't flexible. It was very much a 9 to 5 type job. Didn't do any travel. Now I'm remote. I travel as needed. I have a lot of autonomy, which means I can kind of do what I want on my own schedule. I create my own structure. So some people like structure. Some people don't like structure. Do you like 9 to 5? Entrepreneurs don't like 9 to 5s. That's why they go into their own businesses. Do you like working with a lot of people, a little bit of people? And those will kind of guide you to what you want to be in the type of jobs you look for. Salary, again, this is relative. I think I didn't really have an idea of what salaries were until I was actually an adult and paid bills. I didn't even know how much my mom made growing up. That was just kind of like, that was her business. That was grown-up business. And so you can kind of assess that a little bit closer when you're like in college probably, but, you know, have some big goals or just like big picture goals and what you think could help you live a comfortable life. And life changes too. So, you know, one day it'll be, you know, what's your life like for just yourself? And then maybe one day you'll have a family. So you'll adjust these kinds of things as they're relevant. And then geography, like I said, I don't like living in cold places, so you probably won't catch me living in Canada. I don't need to live near the beach, but I do like the mountains and rock climbing and things like that. So, and I've always lived in a major metropolitan city. That's important to me. I don't know why. I don't go out in the city. I just have this fear of not being in the city. I've lived in Atlanta. I've lived in Houston. I've lived in DC. So those things are important to me. So I usually try to find jobs relative to those areas. So by looking at this list and, you know, kind of taking a personal assessment of what's important to you, what's not at different stages of your life will really help you kind of tailor your future career paths. And so from this, what I would recommend you all to do is kind of take some time to browse those different careers. Of course, if you want to be a doctor, please go right ahead. We need doctors, we need nurses, we need scientists, we need people in academia, we need everybody everywhere. So don't feel like you cannot be those traditional pathways. But for those who, you know, also I did want to be a doctor at one point in time. And then I took the MCAT 4 times and God was like, that's not for you, Briana. So, you know, there's things that will help you self-assess and kind of pivot as well. So, don't be discouraged. Just kind of make a new plan for yourself and adjust as needed. But anywho, so go ahead and research some of those different careers that I've named and other opportunities that can help you get there, summer programs, internships, and then draft the plan for your future pursuits. So if your career needs a master's, find master's programs in those geographical areas that you like with the diverse or non-diverse populations that you want, that have successful graduates. If you want to be a project manager and you need a project manager certificate, what does it take to get there, and just kind of get some big picture ideas and then go in and fill it in as you go. I think you have plenty of time to figure it out. And if you make a plan today, you can change it tomorrow. But it's always good to have a plan so you can have something to measure and go by. And so some of my key takeaways that I've learned on my journey, that others have told me, that I've heard from my students, is try new things. If you're 100% confident that you want to be in STEM, that means it will not hurt for you to try something else. Nothing will divert you from your pathway if that's what you want. So it doesn't hurt to try new things. Like I said, I took a clinical, Nana Bird, I'll get you some suggestions. I tried clinical neuropsychology in my master's program, and I was in an educational psychology class. I tried an organizational leadership class, and now, who knew that I would actually be in a nonprofit leadership position? I did sports medicine. I worked in Korea for one summer, and all kinds of just random things, because I knew that I would end up where I needed to go, and I just wanted to do as much as I could. Unfortunately, I was working while I was in college the whole time, so I didn't have the opportunity to do traditional programs if they weren't like paid or had some intentional support to get me to where I wanted to go. But if you have the opportunity to try new things and don't have to worry about financial constraints, definitely feel free to take that art class, take that dance class. I took theater when I was in college. Whatever you can do, and then try again. Something I think, I don't want to say is a regret, because I think I'm happy where I ended up, was that once I started on my biology degree, people made me feel like I couldn't get off that train and I couldn't change pathways. And so I stayed. And like I said, I graduated and didn't know what to do with a biology degree. And while I say try again, never give up, definitely finish and accomplish your goals, but definitely turn your no's into not nows. And, don't feel discouraged if you have to stop, if you have to change, if you have to readjust. Just keep going. And then again, you'll end up where you need to go. Also, there's not one way to do it. I have my path. I have people who are in similar positions as me who've done completely different things. I have teacher friends who have gone on to do different things, and some are still in the classroom. I know CEOs of STEM companies, and their journey looks much different than mine. But you do what works best for you, not your mom, your dad, your brother. You have to live with your decisions, and you have to live with your choices and career path, and you should do, what's best for you at this time. Don't be, selfish necessarily, but, you have to take care of yourself and make sure your needs are being met. Timing is everything. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Everything you do now can have some kind of impact on what you do next. Like I said, I did sports medicine, and I ended up, on that pathway. And a lot of the things I did, I played basketball, and I didn't think that was relevant, but it got me to that sports medicine job. And then after I got the sports medicine job, the person I met, had also gone to Korea, and we had that connection. So I think it's really meaningful to find that storytelling piece in your journey. And then when the opportunity presents itself, you'll be ready for, to be successful in that area. So definitely stay ready and use and make the most of all the experiences that you have. Make connections, find peers who are interested in what you're interested in, find mentors, teachers, people are willing and eager to give back and help others get where we are and do what we do. We want you all to do it better and faster, preferably. So anything people can do to help, they're always willing to give back. So find someone, do those informational interviews, and just network. And it doesn't hurt to ask. The worst that someone can tell you is no. And you'll move on, find somebody else who will say yes. So definitely make connections and then have fun. Enjoy learning about STEM. Enjoy learning about yourself every step of the way. If you're not having fun, then you're not doing it right. You need to, it's hard work for sure, not to negate that. But you should enjoy it. Life is short. The work will be there. The money will be there, but your happiness and your peace of mind might not. So definitely take care of yourself and have fun along the way. Really quickly, I did, at the bottom of that worksheet, if you still have it pulled up, there are some resources to, tell you some next steps. Let me see if it's on. I don't think there's any more slides. Yeah, this is the last slide. But there's some resources for you to draft your career plans and just some probing questions to help you. So please be sure to check that out. We can drop the link in the chat again. Use LinkedIn. Twitter has a lot of jobs and people connections. Get your resume built. Write all those experiences down, communicate it in a way that shows that you are qualified and highlights your transferable skills. And also be very conscious about your personal brands and what you put on social media. Again, I'm only on LinkedIn and Facebook. I don't have a Twitter or Instagram. So, your future employers, your future people that you connect with will look at those things. So just be conscious of that and who you want to be and what you want to represent. So those are my final takeaways. Where can I look for summer programs and do I have any recommendations? I will go find some and I can share them. I don't have any off the top of my head. Is this high school summer programs? I have to look, but I'm sure I can find some. Female mentors in STEM in Atlanta. So there's a lot of, I'm sure, nonprofits and organizations. Carlin, is it okay if I take these questions and then go find some resources and then you all share them out with the folks?
We could do that. We've done that before.
Okay.
And to answer that question, wherever you are, the best way to find mentors is to look at the places you want to work, the place that you want to study, going to events or attending virtual events. So wherever it is that you think that you want to work or want to go to school, summer programs at colleges and universities, clubs, there's not always formal mentorship programs, right?
Right.
But as you get to do stuff that allows you to explore your interests in STEM, you'll find that you'll meet other students your age and people that are putting on these programs that are really doing this because they want to help kids. And talk to them at these events, even if they're virtual. Send them a chat. If they put their contact information, shoot them an email, or an email is preferable. But if you find them on social media, be like, hey, I'm interested in what you're doing. What is your email address so I can contact you? Email is still the best way to contact professionally. I know, they say slide in DMs, but you slide in DMs to get preferred contact information. We did not want to continue dialogues in the DM, right? And so that is the best way wherever you are. When you explore your interests, you'll end up finding people that are willing to help you, that'll guide you along that process.
Mm-hmm. Tequila is really good at mentorship and knowing about that. So the advice that she just gave, is definitely It
Yeah,
was
in my
really
career, I have never found any of my mentors through any formal mentorship programs. And I'm an introvert, so I don't even like talking to that many people. But you go somewhere, you find your teachers, your college professors introduce me to a lot of people. You go to this event and somebody does something that's really cool, and you're like, I want to learn more. I want to talk to them more. And that is usually how you end up finding your mentors, the people that you want to talk to more, but also want to talk to you, because some people don't want to be mentors, right? They just want to show up, show you the fun thing, go about their business. So it is really a lot of talking to people and just being willing to, whether you're introvert or extrovert, introduce to yourself and have conversations with people that you think are doing really cool stuff that you're interested in. And the beauty of you all growing up as teens is y'all have social media. We didn't have that. So we had to see who we randomly came across. So like there are a lot of hashtags. Like if you look at our page, we have some of those hashtags. You can look at who's done IG takeovers. So those are different ways that you can find examples of people. There's so many scientists on social media doing cool stuff. Especially on IG and TikTok. So just remember that social media isn't just for all the teenage shenanigans. You can really meet some cool people and learn about some cool stuff.
That is a really great point. Just like how Briana is saying that, she can get the information that you guys are asking about. A lot of the people who volunteer and do these workshops and do our IG takeovers are always open to people following up with them and, reaching out and getting answers to more questions. So we want to thank you guys so much for joining us for this workshop. If you did not get any value from this, then I don't know what to tell you, because this was really amazing and really, a great advantage to mapping out your STEM career, your dream STEM career, as we like to say. I am dropping a survey in the chat, and we would really appreciate it if you take a few minutes to fill it out. You also get the chance to, share what you would like to see in the future. And it's really helpful for us when you do the surveys, so that we can continue to bring you the type of programs that will help you in your STEM journey.
And thank you so much, Briana. I don't think I did my plan to, after I graduated from college, like a mentor of mine just wrote on his whiteboard in his office. And he didn't come remember. It was actually one of my early bosses. It was just like, what you gonna do with yourself? Like, this is a grant funded position. You can't work for me forever. So let's make a plan. And so it is great that they learned this, in high school. And, that plan that I did, recent college graduate, has totally changed and evolved over the years. But, I think you get a head start when you can start it earlier, right? You can make
Absolutely
less, I don't want to say less mistakes, because nothing is ever a mistake, but I think that you can, how do I put this? You are going to grow and evolve, but at least you can go on a path that you think you're interested in, versus like, oops, this just the kind of the path that I thought I should do, right? Versus the path that you wanted to do, and then make changes.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Briana. Thank you everyone for attending the cafe. Be sure to do the survey. If you are on LinkedIn, I'm sure Briana would not have a problem connecting with you all. I'm going to let Carlin close us out with information about our upcoming program. You think everyone else should know. Thank you so much, everyone. So, Carlin.
Alrighty, so to close out, it's so interesting that Briana shared that she was a neuroscience and biotechnology educator, because our next Teen Science Cafe is going to be on biomedical science with some biotechnology in there as well. So if that sounds of interest to you, if you want to learn more about how biomedical science has seen the developments of what we've all been going through recently, then definitely follow the link that I'm dropping in the comments in the chat so that you can sign up for our next Teen Science Cafe, which will be in 2 weeks on September 22nd. And that is a Wednesday. So thank you so much, Briana, for joining us, and we will see everyone next time.
Good night, everyone. And if you all are interested and have any career paths, just check out the old Teen Science Cafes on our YouTube channel. You can learn a lot. Have a good evening, everyone, and thank you again, Briana.
Y'all have a good night.